Dear students, welcome back. I hope all are fine. Today I am here to teach you a lesson from our supplementary book. Lesson number 4, A Question of Trust, written by Victor Canning. Victor Canning was a British novelist. He was born on 16th June 1911 and died on 21st February 1986. Some of his famous works are given here. Please listen. The Rainbird Pattern, The Finger of Saturn, The Doomsday Carrier, The Circle of Gods, The Immortal Wound, etc. Dear students, let us start the lesson. This is the first paragraph of the lesson. Horace Danby is the main character in the story. So let us start. Everyone thought that Horace Danby was a good, honest citizen. This means that Horace Danby had a good reputation in the society. So everyone thought that he was good and honest. He was about 50 years old. He was 50 years old and unmarried. He was unmarried. And he lived with a housekeeper who worried over his health. He was unmarried and he lived with a housekeeper. The housekeeper was worried about his health. In fact, he was usually very well and happy. He was healthy and he was fine, very well and happy, except for attacks of hay fever in summer. He was healthy and fine, but he used to have hay fever attacks in summer. Hay fever is a health disorder affecting the nose and throat. It is caused by allergy to pollen or dust. Horace Danby suffers from hay fever attacks in summer season. Now let us see what was his profession. He made locks and was successful enough at his business to have 2 helpers. Horace Danby made locks. That means he was a locksmith. He made locks. And he was successful at this business. He can maintain 2 helpers. He was successful enough at his business to have 2 helpers. That's why everyone thought that Horace Danby was a good and respectable person. Yes, Horace Danby was good and respectable. Horace Danby was a good person and a respectable person, but not completely honest. But he was not completely honest. Why he is not completely honest? Because he was a thief. He was a thief. That's why he is not completely honest. And 15 years ago, Horace had served his first and only sentence in a prison library. He had gone to jail about 15 years ago and rendered service in jail library. So he had a passion for books. He loved rare, expensive books. So he robbed a safe every year. He didn't stop robbery. Every year he robbed something. After releasing from jail, what he continued to do? Each year he planned carefully just what he would do. Stole enough to last for 12 months and secretly bought the books he loved through an agent. He steals once in a year. Each year he planned it. And he robbed a safe every year. He stole enough money to last for 12 months. He used to steal money that would last for a year. And with this money, he bought the books through an agent. He bought books through an agent secretly. Dear students, now he is getting ready to commit another robbery. Now walking in the bright July sunshine, he felt sure that this year's robbery was going to be as successful as all the others. He was now out on committing a robbery. He was walking in the bright July sunshine. He was sure about the success of that year's robbery. For 2 weeks he had been studying the house at Shotover Grange. Shotover is a hilly forest area in England. Grange is a country house with a farm building attached. So the house is at the Shotover Grange. For 2 weeks he had been studying the house at Shotover Grange, looking at its rooms, its electric wiring, its paths and its garden. He studied even the smallest details about the house, such as electric wiring, paths, and garden areas. Look at these sentences. This afternoon, the two servants who remained in the Grange while the family was in London had gone to the movies. That specific day, nobody was there in the house. Family members had already gone to London, and the servants who were supposed to stay back at the house went out for a movie. So nobody was there in the house. And Horace saw them go. Horace saw them go, and he felt happy in spite of a little tickle of hay fever in his nose. Horace was very happy in spite of a little tickle of hay fever in his nose. He had some problems related with the hay fever. He came out from behind the garden wall, his tools carefully packed in a bag on his back. He then left with a bag that had his tools. There were about 15,000 pounds worth of jewels in the Grange safe. According to Horace, there were about 15,000 pounds worth of jewels in the Grange safe. If he had sold them one by one, he expected to get at least 5,000, enough to make him happy for another year. He thought that even if he had sold them one by one, he would get at least 5,000 pounds. It is sufficient for another year. There were 3 very interesting books coming up for sale in the autumn. He also thought about the 3 books that were coming up in the next autumn. He wants to buy the books. He wants to buy those 3 books. If the robbery is successful, he would get enough money to buy those books. Now he would get the money he wanted to buy them. He had seen the housekeeper hang the key to the kitchen door on a hook outside. He had already seen the housekeeper of the Grange hang the key on the hook outside the kitchen door. He put on a pair of gloves, took the key and opened the door. He took the key with a glove on his hands because he is very careful about fingerprints. He was always careful not to leave any fingerprints. So he used a glove to take the keys. A small dog was lying in the kitchen. He then saw a small dog lying in the kitchen. It stirred, made a noise, and moved its tail in a friendly way. The dog moved a bit, made a noise, and then moved his tail in a friendly way. "All right, Sherry," Horace said as he passed. Horace said these words to the dog. Sherry was the name of the dog. All you had to do to keep dogs quiet was to call them by right names and show them love. Horace says that it was his trick to keep dogs quiet. By calling their right names, we can keep dogs quiet. And by showing them love, we can keep dogs quiet. Now he reached near the safe. The safe was in the drawing room behind a rather poor painting. The safe of the Grange was in the drawing room, hidden behind a painting. Horace wondered for a moment whether he should collect pictures instead of books. Looking at the painting, he thought that he should collect paintings rather than books, but they took up too much room. But paintings need too much space. In a small house, books were better. There was a bowl of flowers on the table and Horace felt his nose. Then as he moved forward, he saw a bowl of flowers on the table. His nose was tickling due to the hay fever and the smell of the flowers. He gave a little sneeze and then put down his bag. He started sneezing and then he put down his bag. He carefully arranged his tools. Horace took his tools and arranged them carefully. He had 4 hours before the servants returned. The safe was not going to be hard to open. The safe would not have been difficult to open. After all, he had lived with locks and safes all his life because he is familiar with the use of locks and safes. He had lived with locks and safes all his life. The burglar alarm was poorly built. The burglar alarm in the house was not a good one. Dear students, please listen here. So now he went into the hall to cut its wire. He went into the hall to cut the wires of the burglar system. He came back and sneezed loudly as the smell of the flowers came to him again. He again sneezed loudly as the smell of the flowers came to him again. How foolish people are when they own valuable things, Horace thought. He was thinking to himself that how foolish rich people were when they had valuable things. As he recalled that whole plan of the house, including the information about the safe, was given in a magazine. Why did Horace think that these rich people are foolish? There is a reason. Because a magazine article had described this house, giving a plan of all the rooms and pictures of this room. He had seen a magazine article describing the same house, giving a clear plan of the rooms and picture of the room also. The writer had even mentioned that painting hid a safe. Writer had already mentioned where the safe is kept, and there were details about the painting also. He thinks that publishing such an article in a magazine is not wise, so he called them foolish. And the same magazine article helped him to make plans for the robbery. But Horace found that flowers were hindering him in his work. He saw that the smell of the flowers was constantly making him sneeze loudly. He buried his face in his handkerchief because he has hay fever and the smell of the flowers was constantly making him sneeze loudly. So he put a handkerchief on his face and he continued his work. He continued his work by putting a handkerchief on his face. Then the worst thing happened. Suddenly he heard a voice from the doorway. What is it? A cold or hay fever? Somebody from the doorway asked him that was it a cold or hay fever. Horace was worried. He didn't get time to think. Before he could think, Horace said hay fever and found himself sneezing again. He didn't get time to think. He quickly replied hay fever and sneezed again. You can cure it with a special treatment. If you find out just what plant gives you the disease. The other person continued and told him that he could cure it, but he should know which flower causes the allergy and that he should see a doctor if he wanted to be a good thief. If he wanted to be a good thief, he should consult a doctor and he should cure it. I heard you from the top of the house just now. The other person said that his sneezing could be heard from the top floor of the house. Dear students, Horace could not complete his work. Before completing the work, a lady entered the room. So we are concluding here. Dear students, let us recap the important points. Horace Danby is the main character in the story. He had a good reputation in the society. People believed that he was good and honest, but he was a thief. He was in jail about 15 years ago. He loved reading books. Every year he commits a robbery. So this year he planned to rob a house at the Short Tower Grange. So he studied the house carefully. He reached the house with his tools. He met a dog inside the house and he started his work. But he could not complete his work as a lady entered the room. We will discuss the remaining part of the story in the next session. Thank you very much.